Hello, just sitting here making another video. I've been thinking about making this video for a few days now, and I thought, well, maybe today's the perfect time because it is rainy and dark and overcast today. And, I had thought maybe would start planting some stuff for the garden, doing container gardening. But I'm looking out the window. It's not good. Just dreary and overcast. So let's talk about some stuff. So you know that I recently changed my account just a little bit. I'm still talking about folk healing and stuff like that. And I wanted to talk to you today about watching vintage TV and the benefits of it and if it can improve your life. And personally, I think so. I think there are some benefits to watching these old family television shows. If you look at today's broadcasting schedules, cop shows, detective shows, which is like NCIS, FBI, oh gosh, what else? Hospital shows, rescue shows like 911, and then you have 911, you have 911 Houston, and it's all drama, drama, drama. There's murders, there's maiming, there's blood and guts everywhere. And like your subconscious does not know the difference between reality and make-believe. I forgot to do the thing. Hold on. And there's a lot of people out there who are negative about these old vintage shows, and they're like, nothing. It wasn't all roses and rainbows back in the 50s and 40s, and you know what? Everything on TV is exaggerated, okay? And why not show an exaggeration of good, positive things and not just Criminal Minds? These shows used to be on at night when children were in bed or after dinner, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Now, Criminal Minds reruns come on at 11 o'clock on Sunday. There's no more boundaries anymore. There's no more decency in America. And that's one of the reasons why I've really started to go into the vintage shows a lot more. Is there's no cussing, there's no sex, there's positivity, lots of positivity. There's respect for the father, respect for the family. When you see the shows in the 40s and 50s, and even the 60s, like the children within the family respect the family. It's only the outside children who weren't raised in that family that corrupt the children and cause them to start talking back, throwing temper tantrums, etc., that sort of thing. But in starting with Mr. Belvedere, well, not just Mr. Belvedere, it kind of started in the 80s and 90s where the children started talking back to the parents. But that's nothing new. Aristotle was complaining about how children were rude and talked back to their parents and, all the things. But the reason why I like watching these shows is they're calmer. They're more laid back. They have a moral usually to the story. Somebody makes a mistake. People lovingly forgive them. They might give them a little bit of a hard time, but they don't treat them disrespectfully. And there's a lot of disrespect on modern television in search of a cheap joke, cheap laugh. And so the very first television show about the family was The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. And it ran from 1952 to 1966. It featured the real-life Nelson family, including Ozzie, the father, Harriet, the mother, and their sons David and Ricki. Do you remember Ricki Nelson? He was a singer back in the 60s. Very cute. He had children. So they had twin boys, and they were the Nelsons. I loved their songs. I did. Some of the shows that I like, of course, are Mayberry, Leave It to Beaver. I do like MASH, even though MASH isn't a family show in the traditional sense. MASH is a show about a bunch of doctors during the Korean War. They have their camp, and patients are either flown in or they arrive in ambulance or by Jeep. And when I say flown in, I mean by helicopter. They have a helicopter pad for the very wounded. And so you have the colonel. First it was Colonel Blake, then it was Colonel Potter. And he's kind of like the dad of the camp. And then you kind of have Margaret Houlihan, who is kind of like the camp mom, but she's also the hotsy-totsy of the camp. But they all kind of interact like a family, okay? They love each other. They look out for each other. They have misadventures with each other. And it's kind of funny because it was filmed during the time of the censors. So instead of calling people names, like on Mike and Molly, they worked in the word SOB every single show. Every single show of Mike and Molly, they're cussing that, especially that word SOB, saying it fully or just saying the initials. And but on MASH, you'll hear Colonel Potter say things like mule muffins or horse cookies or, something like that. And so it's kind of funny, or you'll hear, you're a bunch of crumbs. You're a bunch of creeps. You're, whatever. And it's just kind of, stinkers. Father Mulcahy, there's a priest on the show, called her folks a bunch of stinkers. And I thought that was kind of funny. He's the priest, he got upset. So what is it about these shows that make them so unique and evergreen? Because, I'm sorry, I make these shows evergreen because some of them have been on the television continuously, even after they ended, the reruns started. They instill positive values of respect for elders, kindness and good manners, strong family ties, accountability, and forgiveness. Accountability and forgiveness is a big one. You don't see that a lot in the shows today, sometimes, but a lot of times it's that people will tap dance around it, and you really have to work a lot harder in these shows to see them say, yes, I messed up, please forgive me. So many vintage shows present moral dilemmas with clear lessons, teaching viewers how to navigate right and wrong in everyday life. Andy Griffith was a single father, and yet he loved Opie. He took good care of Opie, and I never saw him hit Opie out of anger. A lot of us were hit out of anger, and it was called discipline. You don't see that on these shows. And I know it's a fantasy show, but there are there's a lot of families out there that don't hit in anger. So they promote clean, wholesome entertainment. The series are free from explicit content, less cynical, often gentle and heartwarming. They offer a break from the overstimulation and negativity of current media, promoting peace of mind. These rescue shows are, it's pumping adrenaline for an hour while you're watching the show, and you don't get a break. Okay. Whereas, you walk into Mayberry, and the scariest thing that might happen is Barney reaches for his gun and it goes off. It slows the pace of life. Everybody talks about slow living. What about slow media, slow television watching? They take their time to tell a story, and they emphasize conversations, daily routines, and small joys. The slower rhythm can help reduce anxiety, encourage mindfulness, and offer a calming, cozy background to a busy day. Every evening when they show it, so Andy goes home for dinner, and if they show his home life, sometimes they don't because they're busy catching escapees or whatever. But if they show home life, Aunt Bee has a hot meal on the table with her Blue Willow Spode china. Everybody seems to own Blue Willow Spode china back then. She has There's the meat, potatoes, sweet potatoes, maybe, green beans or pearly onions, or, some kind of oh, and she said something one day, Opie, yeah, how are you going to get your 2 green and 1 yellow vegetable? And that was a thing back then. The colorful differences of vegetables made a difference because different colored vegetables offer different health benefits. I guess that's where 3-bean salad comes from. So you have your green bean, you have your yellow wax bean, then you have your kidney beans or whatever. And it's kind of funny. Well, you got to have your 2 greens and 1 yellow vegetable. And let's see, it encourages formality and decorum. Characters often dress well, even at home. Speak politely and behave with poise. They inspire viewers to elevate their own habits, encourage dressing with pride, keeping a tidy home, and treating others with dignity. Keeping a tidy home and presenting your best face out in public was a big deal. And it wasn't just out in public. A lot of times, and this is the thing that really shocks me, is that people just walk into your house, your best friends, your good friends, your neighbors. They might knock once, but then they walk into your house. Hello, it's me. I'm just here to sort of whatever. And if somebody walked into my house, I'd be like, what are you doing? But so they dressed for the day in preparation for the fact that somebody might knock on their door or just walk in, and you want to be dressed. You don't want to be seen in your bathrobe or less. So you had your hair done and your face on and your jewelry and clothes and everything. You're ready to go. And I think that's very interesting. And I also noticed the evolution of Opie from wearing collared soft shirts, like pullover shirts, to button-down shirts when he's about 7 years old. 6 or 7 years old, he starts dressing like a little man instead of a little kid. And, nowadays, if you wear something and it's not sweatpants or athleisure wear, people ask you, well, where are you going? Why are you dressed so fancy? And just back in the 50s and 60s, it was the norm. Even the 80s, if you watch 80s television shows like The Nanny or Murder, She Wrote, people are dressed well. They, and I remember that too. I remember dressing with pride, not just in the workplace, but when you're out and about. And nowadays, if you do it, people kind of look at you like, what are you doing? You're not dressed like one of us. Like, no, I'm not. I'm, trying to present myself in a certain manner. And I don't know, it's interesting. These vintage shows strengthen emotional intelligence. Characters deal with conflict with grace, apologies and reconciliation, family dynamics, and friendship struggles. Watching these interactions can model emotional maturity, helping viewers reflect and grow in their own relationships. And I see that, I'm watching a rerun of Aunt Bee. It's called The Pageant, and Aunt Bee is playing Lady Mayberry, and she's not doing very well. And her friend Clara has played Lady Mayberry in the pageant before, and she does an outstanding job. Aunt Bee realizes this. Clara had to go out of town because of a relative fell ill. She comes back to town and she just recites some of the lines from the pageant. She's going to take care of Opie and Andy while Aunt Bee is doing the rehearsal, and Miss Clara doesn't have any issue with Aunt Bee playing Lady Mayberry. She thinks it's great. But when Aunt Bee hears Clara recite the lines from the pageant, she knows that Clara is a much better Lady Mayberry than she is, and she graciously gives up this part, even though her heart was so into it. But she just couldn't act very well, according to the script, and so she graciously backed out. They create a warm domestic vibe. These shows highlight the joy of cooking dinner for the family, sitting down for meals, cleaning, decorating, and homemaking with love. This can inspire you to make your home more inviting and nurturing, and I have experienced that myself. I really struggle with executive disorder and ADHD, trying to get anything done is quite the challenge for me. And one day I was binge watching a lot of the Andy Griffith Show, just looking for scenes with Aunt Bee in them, and watching her dedication to cleaning the house inspired me. So I would watch a little bit, and then when it would go to commercial, because it was 140 seconds of commercial, I would run to the kitchen and I would get something done, and I would come back just in time because I could see the TV from the kitchen. And when it started to come on, I would sit back down, watch a little bit more, or if I missed the intro, then I would back it up a little bit, because we have that power now with television on the computer and whatever. And I was getting a lot done that day. And it was just inspiring to have someone like Aunt Bee encourage me. Aunt Bee's not really real, but in my heart, she's my Aunt Bee too. Nostalgic therapy. Even if you didn't grow up in that era, the aesthetic and simplicity can feel like comfort food for the soul. It reminds us of a slower, kinder time, offers a hopeful, idealized version of community and family life. Yeah. Now, especially after COVID, it's a struggle to make community. A lot of people just want to stay at home. And then when they do go out in public, they seem to be the worst versions of themselves. And I don't know if it's the stress of going out, just not being able to deal with it, not used to dealing with it. And I have fallen victim to my own stress and insecurities when I'm out in public and shown like the worst version of myself. And I'm hoping it's not out there on the internet somewhere, but it could be. Educational and soft skills. Characters model how to apologize sincerely, how to express gratitude, how to handle disappointment or embarrassment with dignity. These lessons still apply today and can improve communication and confidence. If you're ever not sure how to act, like if you have if you struggle with social graces and having social awkwardness, watching these old shows could help you. Bonus, it makes for a lovely background while cleaning or crafting. And remember, I just said how I would watch a little bit of the Andy Griffith Show, then I'd go do something in the kitchen, watch a little bit more, go do something in the kitchen. I got a lot done that day. And it was nice to have that interruption because, I tend to get inside my head when I clean. And of course, it's always negative. And it kind of gives me that little break of that negative stuff that plays in my mind and allows me that peace and quiet and comfort of the nice people on the TV who don't tear each other down. So their gentle tone and familiar rhythm make these shows perfect for having on while you do chores, cook, journal, knit, or do a puzzle. So let's see, vintage TV shows for homemaking inspiration. Did you know that from 1961 to 1966, there was a TV show called Hazel? She was a professional homemaker with sass and skill. So she worked for an affluent family. The husband was an architect, and the wife was a antique dealer and designer decorator. So Hazel is a live-in maid who runs the household like a boss with charm and authority, teaches cleaning routines. This is the show, teaches it, not Hazel, but if you watch the show, you'll pick up on today is Hazel's laundry day, today is Hazel's dusting day, today is Hazel's vacuuming day. So it teaches cleaning routines, managing a home with grace, how to take pride in homemaking. It's great for routines, cooking inspiration, and humorous problem solving. And doesn't that seem to be the thing these days, is that if you clean your house, or you like to clean your house, or you like to be a stay-at-home wife and clean house and do things, it's looked down upon. Like, don't you have anything else more ambitious to do? There's so much out there, so many books written, so many podcasts, so many shows on YouTube about cleaning your house, how important it is to clean your house. And having a clean house and clean laundry and food to eat has been scientifically proven to be the thing that people need the most when they're growing up. They need a mom, they need a dad, they need a clean house, that stability. Like, I can find my clothes in the morning. I know mom and dad are going to be home when I come home from school, or at least mom. Or I know that there's going to be hot food on the table and we all sit down and visit. And so when I was growing up, it was come home from school, have a snack, do your homework, clean off the table from your homework stuff, put it away, set the table for dinner. Then mom would come home from work, or whoever got home first sometimes, because, for a while there it was just mom at home, and then she went to work. And so there was dinner, and then dishes afterwards. And then after the dishes were done, we played board games at night or cards, and it was a lot of fun. And these things are, I think, so much more important than everybody going off to their devices and being alone, because you learn diplomacy in a family. And if you're all off doing your own thing and not interacting, you don't know how to treat each other, and you don't know how to exist in the world. And these are important skill building times. Those soft skills that they're talking about, that's important, because, and of course, I don't know, maybe, how would you list that on a resume? Maybe nowadays people would be appreciative of that. Oh, I lived in a house where we interacted with each other instead of just going off and being on our devices and not interacting with one another. Leave It to Beaver. The theme is classic suburban family life. June Cleaver keeps a picture-perfect home in pearls and heels. It teaches grace under pressure, dressing up to care for your home, preparing meals, and comforting children. Great for calm domestic energy, parenting tips, and kitchen table wisdom. Again, Ward Cleaver is the head of the house, and the kids go to him for his wisdom and advice. I am so glad that I found my husband and I got married. I would be dead without his advice. I would be dead without his love. Finding the right person to respect and go to for wisdom is so amazing, beneficial, wonderful, healing. And truly, he is, I hate how these shows have portrayed fathers. Like Homer Simpson is a big example of a buffoon dad. And it's like, no, it's just part of the liberal left agenda to destroy the family. I'm sorry for getting a little bit political there, or am I? I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Father knows best. Harmony and order at home. Margaret Anderson is the model of poise, keeping house while teaching values. Teaches how to run a home with love and discipline, how to be a calm, wise presence. Great for balancing homemaking and emotional labor. Emotional labor, that's an interesting phrase. It's an interesting turn of words. Because, you have to deal with a lot when you're a homemaker. Emotions, good and bad. Emotions like being bored. Sometimes being a homemaker it's Groundhog Day every day. And, we're doing the same thing, cooking, cleaning, and managing the house. And it takes stamina, perseverance, and discipline to do that. The Donna Reed Show, The Brady Bunch, Little House on the Prairie, although that's a little bit before what I'm talking about. The Nanny it's funny. Mr. Belvedere. And so the other thing I think is interesting is how many people on these shows had domestic help. Wouldn't you like some domestic help? I remember the very first episode of the Andy Griffith Show, the former housekeeper, Rose, gets married and goes away, and that's when Aunt B comes to live with Andy and Opie. And she said, "Oh, Andy, I'm just so thankful to have somewhere to go and something to do," because it sounded like, she had her acting career, I think, on theater Aunt Bee had a theater acting career, and she had even run a Chinese restaurant for a while, and which I thought was kind of funny. It's kind of funny. And then she helped family members raise their children. And then all of a sudden, everybody was grown up and there was nothing left to do. So she was really thankful to have somewhere to go and something to do. And having something to do is very important in our lives, whether you want to admit it or not. Having a purpose in your life matters. And there's an episode where this English butler, Malcolm Merriweather, two of my favorite Andy Griffith shows, where he takes care of the house. One time, the first time, Aunt Bee is actually out of town. And then the second time, Aunt Bee is there, but he needs extra spending money to get through his trip through America. And so he goes and helps Andy out around the house again. And then Aunt Bee is a woman of leisure, and she doesn't take to it very well. She doesn't have a purpose anymore. And of course, Opie notices. Opie says, he hears Malcolm kind of singing in the kitchen, and he's like, Aunt Bee used to sing when she did the dishes too. She doesn't sing very much anymore. She's really sad. She's up in her bedroom. She's taken to the bed. She doesn't feel well. Malcolm puts two and two together and exits the Mayberry house. And so it's very interesting, the things that you learn from vintage television shows that can help you. Emotional intelligence, purpose, dressing, not expensive, but dressing well enough to where you don't look like you just rolled out of bed in dirty sweatpants and clothes that you've been wearing for a week already, covered in food stains, and you're good. I mean, that's what I see at Walmart all the time. Accountability, admitting when you're wrong, apologizing, making things work. You live in a small town. If we all acted like we lived in a small town and we really were dependent upon one another, instead of all the separation that you see is so prevalent now, that is a popular theme, is to separate us and to cause division. If we all lived like, people in our lives mattered, I think things would go so much better for us and those around us. And so, oh my goodness, it's such a long video. Are you even still here? I don't know. If you are, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. Figure out a way to make some changes in your life if you need to. Start watching some of these older shows, and if you need to, develop a cleaning routine, and if you need to, learn how to cook something. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to show you this. I know this is a long video. I might have to break it up into two parts. Da, da, da. Aunt Bee's Mayberry Cookbook. Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. Look what happened to it, though, when it was shipped. Look at this damage on the back cover. They must have thrown it. So anyway, it has a lot of good recipes in here. Grits, eggs, and cheese. Betty's Breakfast Grits Casserole. You guys can do this. Maybe I'll do a video on how to read a recipe. But anyway, so Aunt Bee's cookbook. This was the 60th anniversary of the show cookbook, and I bought the hard copy. I chose to buy the hard copy instead of the spiral bound. It talks about the show. It talks about the characters. It has little dialogues in there about food. There's one in particular where Barney's all upset because Aunt Bee's a little bit late with the lunch. She would cook lunch and take it to the courthouse for the guys. She was wonderful. So anyway, let me know in comments, what is your favorite nostalgic show, if you have one? Do you have a vintage show that you like? What is your favorite TV show? Let me know. I really want to know about you. All right. Thank you so much for stopping by. Talk to you later.